Hey everybody, I'm Chris, and this is my channel Chesapeake Chris. Thanks for stopping by. My beer has been fermenting up in the cooler for about 2 weeks and 2 days now. Today we're gonna bottle it. I'm gonna shoot some video of how I bottle it, show you how that's done. Then it has to sit another 2 weeks. And then I'll shoot some video of when I open the first one and taste it and see how it goes. And I'll wait to release this video until I get the tasting video filmed. So if you want to see how I bottle this stuff, stick around. When you bottle your beer, you can get the glass bottles with the ceramic flip tops, or you can get plastic ones with reusable screw-on tops. I don't use either of those. I just take beer bottles from beer that I bought in the past, and I use them and I recap them. Now you have to make sure they're the pop-off tops. They can't be a screw-off top. So cheap beers, you can't reuse their bottles. But you have to clean and sanitize your bottles. So the first thing I do is I fill a sink up with really hot water, and I put these bottles in there, and make sure when you put them in there you elevate the neck a little bit so that the bottle fills with hot water and just doesn't get a big air bubble in it. But yeah, I put these in there, I fill them up with hot water, and I let them soak for a little bit. So I'm gonna get these in there and get that done, and then I'll show you the next step. And soaking these bottles in hot water doesn't sanitize them. It's done mainly just to get any sediment, dirt, dust out of them. So I do that first. And like I say, if you get the bottles full of water, they shouldn't be floating. They should sink down to the bottom like that. That means they're pretty much full of water and there's hardly any air in them. After they soak just for a minute or so, like I say, then I pull them out. I dump a little bit of water out, put my thumb over the hole, and then I shake it really good. And then I dump it out. And I'm gonna do that. A gallon of beer will make about 10 bottles. So I'm gonna take care of all these, and then we'll get back to sanitizing them. Okay, I bought a drying rack for my bottles. And like I said, I just took them out of the hot water and I put them in there to dry for just a little bit. You can take the labels off these bottles just by soaking them in hot water. And then they make this tool here to scrape the labels off of it. If I'm going to give bottles of beer away to some people sometimes so they can try them, sometimes I do take the labels off, and then I actually just got some generic labels that I can put on there, and I can write on them with this marker. This is only going to make about 10 bottles, and I probably won't give any away, maybe 1 or 2 bottles, so I'm not going to worry about taking the labels off. I know what it is. If you saw the previous show on brewing beer, if you remember, I used half the packet of sanitizer in a gallon of water to sanitize all the tools and the fermenter. Well, now you take another gallon of water, warm water, and you put the rest of that sanitizer in there. And you mix it up, because once again, you got to sanitize everything that's going to touch the beer when you're bottling it. Contaminants in beer is horrible. I mean, the fermenting beer is basically a little science experiment. If you get any contaminants in there, it's going to make the beer taste really bad. So I'm going to mix the rest of the sanitizer up, and then I'm going to put all my implements in there and let them soak for at least a minute again to sanitize them. And the sanitizer they give you with the kit is enough to do everything you need, and it's nice because it's a no-rinse sanitizer. When I would brew 5 gallons and I wouldn't get sanitizer in a kit, I would use this sanitizer here. This is another no rinse sanitizer. Works really well. This is what I used to use to sanitize my 5-gallon carboy and all my utensils. Got all my utensils sanitized and on a paper towel they're drying. You also have to sanitize your bottle caps. So once again, what I do is I just take a little bit of this water out of there, put it in a little bowl. I'm gonna do 12 bottle caps because, like I say, they should make about 10 bottles of beer. And you got to put your bottle caps in there and make sure you got enough water where they're all submerged. So we're going to let them soak too. And we're going to leave them in there until we use them. Like I say, this is no rinse sanitizer, so I'm just going to leave them in there till I cap. And now it's time to sanitize the bottles. So what I did is I kept that empty spring water jug that I used when I first made it, and I took a funnel and I dumped all that sanitizing water back into that jug so it's easier to pour. Now I got to fill each one of my bottles a third to half away, and then you put the cap on it. You just set it on there, you hold down, you shake it, and then you let that sit for at least a minute, and I'll show you how that works. Now, doing this in the past, I've found that if I'm careful, I can just dump some sanitizer in each one of these bottles from this jug. If I'm having issues, I do have a funnel that I sanitized I can use. But normally, if you're careful and you don't go real fast, you can just fill each one of them bottles a third to a halfway up. And that's what I do. Now, they make a machine to sanitize bottles. It's got a reservoir and you put all the sanitizer in it, and then it's got this like jet, I don't know what to call it, but it's got a tube sticking up. You put the bottle over it, when you push down it shoots sanitizer up into the bottle. So you can literally put the bottle on there and push down on about 6 times and it just shoots it up in there. But this is how I do mine. And now I take my caps out of my, whoops, sanitizer water. Oh, good Lord. Let's put those back in. Let's get a couple fresh ones. So I take some caps, and once again, at this point, I just set it on the bottle and hold it on my finger, and then I shake it. That way it makes sure it gets all over the inside of the bottle and it gets on the inside of the cap. And I'm going to do that with each one of these. And then these bottles will go back into the drying rack. And the caps technically can go back into the sanitizer fluid or on a clean paper towel, either one. And after I get all 12 of these bottles done, then they're sanitized. We'll let them dry just a little bit, and then we'll bottle it. So the wort that's in that fermented wort that's in that fermenter still has some active yeast in it, but it needs some sugar when you bottle it so it can carbonate the beer. So you have to add a little more sugar when you're bottling. There's 2 ways to do it. You can either just dump some regular table sugar into each bottle, or you can mix some with boiling water, let it cool, and then dump it in your fermenter. I'm going to do it that way. When you add sugar, it's very specific how much you need to add so that you get the right carbonation of the beer. This is what happens when you open an overcarbonated beer. Too much sugar, too much time. For these bottles, for this 1 gallon, I need 1.5 cups of water, which I have in there, and I need exactly 2 tablespoons of sugar. So there's 1.5 cups of water, 2 tablespoons of sugar. I'm gonna mix this up. Now I'm supposed to let it come up to a boil, and then I let it boil for 5 minutes, and then I shut it off, let it cool, and I can dump it in the fermenter. Then we'll be ready to put the stuff in the bottles. Okay, the bottles have had the sanitizer soaking in them long enough. So what I do then again is I pick up each one, I shake them one last time. I'm going to take the bottle caps off and put them back in that bowl of sanitizer. You just dump these guys out. You don't have to rinse them, like I say, and then I'll put them in the drying rack. So we're going to do all these while my sugar is boiling for 5 minutes. Okay, my sugar water boiled for 5 minutes. So I took it off the heat. I put a cover on it, put a lid on it. Once again, with brewing, it's all about sanitation and preventing contamination. And I got my bottles back in the drying rack after they were sanitized. Like I said, I put the bottle caps back there in the sanitizing solution. And as soon as that sugar water cools down, we'll dump it in the fermenter and stir it ever so gently. Then we'll start bottling. My sugar water cooled, so I dumped it inside my fermenter and just real gently stirred it with my sanitized spoon. Okay, so now we're gonna start the bottle. Now if you watched my last video, I forgot to use my strainer when I dumped the wort into this fermenter. So I sanitized a smaller funnel and a smaller strainer earlier, and we're going to try and strain this as it goes into the bottle. Let's see how this works out. I've never done it this way before because you get sediment and stuff in the bottom of the fermenter, and there's things floating in there from the hops. So this seems to be working pretty good. I'm just going to strain it as I put it into the bottle, I guess. I also put a paper towel and a paper plate on the floor so that if there's any, spillage or overflow, it'll go down and get soaked up. Well, that first bottle seemed to work out okay. We're going to do one more. If this works out okay, I'll finish filling them, but I'm not going to film all of it. And then we'll show you how I cap them. Now, I don't know if you can see very good in the video, but there's about how full I fill my bottles. That's the good thing about mixing sugar with water and then dumping it in the whole fermenter instead of just adding sugar to the bottle. The sugar is evenly distributed through this solution. So it's not as critical as to how full you fill your bottles when you do it the way I did it. Okay, capping is probably easier than most people think. I bought this bottle capper off of Amazon, and I buy the bottle caps, and it's got a little magnet, so you just put a cap in there and you just center it on the bottle, and then when you pull these down, it's gonna like cam over, and you can tell by the feel that it's capped. You don't want to push too hard because you don't want to break it. Then when you get it capped, it's always a good idea to do the upside down test. Turn it upside down, make sure it doesn't leak, make sure it's capped good. But that's how you do it. We're going to do one more here real quick. Let's see, just put the bottle cap on there. Put it on the bottle. Push both these down evenly. See? Whoop, that's it. Tip it upside down. No problem. I'm going to finish capping these. This is the last bottle to cap. I got about 10.5 bottles as I thought. And in case anybody cares, out of doing hundreds of bottles of brewing beer, oops, I've only ever had one cap fail where it leaked, and I've never broke a bottle yet, because those are things I've read about online that can happen. Okay, so we got 10.5 bottles. I put them in my 6-pack holders. I'm going to take them up, put them back in my cooler. They got to sit there for at least a week, maybe 2, and then they probably should go in the fridge for about a week. So I'll film when I actually open one, try it out, and I'll add it onto all this video, and that'll be the next video, and that'll finish everything up. Last thing I want to mention is the sludge all settles at the bottom of the fermenter, so you really don't get much into the bottles until you have to start to tip the fermenter to get all the liquid out. But there's what I eventually ended up getting in my strainer. So it worked pretty good. That sludge wouldn't hurt anything. It would settle to the bottom of the bottle, but I just don't like it in my beer. So that's how brewing is done at home. It's not real difficult. It does take some time. I got a friend that tells me that there's places you can go, and if you give them money, they'll give you beer. In fact, in some states you can even drive through and they'll put it right in the car, like Ohio and North Carolina. Yeah, I know, but it's not as much fun, not as much satisfaction. As usual, I hope you enjoyed this video. You guys know the drill. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, share this video, hit the subscribe button so that you get notified of my next video. And I'll see you on the next video.